we are looking at respiration. We are looking at ATP. I'm still your teacher Osbert Nwarinda. Now, we want to ask ourselves, we are asking ourselves, the energy we are producing, we are saying that the energy we produce is stored in our body cells in a chemical form, which we have called ATP. Now, the question is, what is this ATP? First, what is ATP in full? I think most of you know that. Yeah, what's ATP in full? ATP is, yes. Yeah, it is called Adenosine Triphosphate. Very good. It is called adenosine. ATP in full is adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. Very good. Now, we have seen it is this adenosine triphosphate where energy is kept in the bonds that make it up. And now we are asking ourselves, if I have ATP, so this adenosine, first of all, what is this? How is this structure here? This structure here is in a way that for those ones who have said about nucleic acids, those ones who have watched my videos about nucleic acids, those ones who have not yet watched those videos, please go and watch them. For those ones who have watched my videos about nucleic acids, there are things. A nucleic acid is made up of small units which we call what? The small units which make up nucleic acids are called what? Yeah, they are called nucleotides. Very good. So we are saying this ATP is also a nucleotide. It's a nucleotide. And nucleotides are made up of three basic elements, three basic components. What are those? A nucleotide is made up of a pentoid sugar. It's made up of a pentoid sugar. Yes. What else makes up a nucleotide? Nucleotide is made up of a pentoid sugar. What else makes it up? A pentoid sugar. What else? Yes. Pentoid sugar and what? Yeah, you have a nitrogenous base. Yes, we have what we call a nitrogenous base. Nitrogenous base. And then what else? Yeah, I want you to talk. Yeah, you talk. The one who's watching, please talk. Nitrogenous base and then phosphoric acid. Very good. And phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid. Now, because ATP is also a nucleotide, it also has all these three things. And what are they? We are saying, for example, it has a pentoid sugar, and this pentoid sugar is none other than ribose. It also has ribose. So its pentoid sugar is ribose, for example. It also has nitrogenous bases. Nitrogenous bases, these are organic bases that have a nitrogen within them. And we are saying the nitrogenous base, of course, we know we have adenine, guanine, cytosine, and so on. But in this case, the nitrogenous base we have within ATP is what we are calling adenine. We are calling it adenine. Actually, it is from this adenine. Where we are able to get where this word comes from. It is this adenine that gives us this word we are calling adenosine. So adenosine is just a modification of adenine. You get it? Thank you. Now, we are saying that apart from that, now we have also phosphoric acid. We have a phosphoric acid. Yeah, phosphoric acid is phosphoric acid. Yeah, so because I don't want to go into those details of the nucleic acid because they are already talked about in previous videos. Those ones who, if you check on the YouTube channel and the rest of the videos, you find that video about nucleic acid. So I don't want to go into all the details. So if I can maybe put some small representations. Pentoid sugar, if I can represent it like this. If I can represent this pentoid sugar, this is the ribose as that. Yeah, of course the pentoid sugar has got 5 carbons. This pen here, pentose, 5 carbons. So the 5 carbons are, we have a carbon atom here. Every time we see a corner, there is a carbon. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have the 5th carbon there. So those are the 5 carbons. So that is our pentose sugar, our ribose. And then our adenine. Now, of course, now adenine, I'm also going to represent it using that box. box appearance here. Yeah, if I can represent it using that box, so a square like that, and then if I can represent my phosphoric acid as just a circle. Yeah, so these three combine in such a way that in forming the ATP, you will have your pentose sugar, which is ribose. Your ribose, which is a pentose sugar, will come. It is there. Then it will combine. There will be a bond that will combine it with adenine there on carbon atom number 1. This is carbon atom number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Of course, we have carbon atom number 5 there, number 5 here. So on carbon atom number 1, we shall have adenine. So it's our adenine base. This is the ribose, our pentose sugar, and then we shall have the phosphoric acid molecules groups coming here. So we shall have our phosphoric acid here like that. And remember here, when you check the name of ATP, we are saying this is adenosine triphosphate. That means I've said adenosine is a modification of adenine. Of course, ribose is there, though it's not talked about in the naming. And then tri means what? Means 3. Then this is phosphate. Phosphate is a modification of from phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid gives us phosphate groups. So we are saying this phosphate, we are getting it from the phosphoric acid. So we are saying the phosphoric acid here gives us the 3 phosphates. So here I can also put phosphoric acid, I can also put phosphate groups. Here I can also put phosphate groups here. So it means here we have how many? We have 3 of them. So it means you have one, you have another one, you have another one. And by the way, these are the 3. These are the 3 phosphate. These are the 3 phosphate groups that are attached there. Now, something very important you need to know is that it is actually when we are forming these phosphate groups, that's where actually energy is hidden. In these bonds which make up these bonds here, which are in between these phosphate, that's where the energy from respiration is kept within those bonds. So it means if these bonds are broken, that's when energy is going to be released. Remember, I told you that ATP is the way how energy is stored. So when energy is formed, it is stored in those bonds that make up ATP. And I'm now telling you that specifically the bonds where energy is kept within ATP are these bonds which are between the phosphate molecules, So we are saying it means within these bonds, if these bonds are broken down, then that's when energy is gone, which had been kept will now be released out, and then it goes away, and then it is utilized by the cell to perform different functions. In fact, if I have, for example, from the start, allow me remind you about this. If I have carbon dioxide. If I have carbon dioxide here, okay, not carbon dioxide, but if I have carbohydrate like glucose, from what we know from O level, if I have glucose here, okay, we have glucose combining with oxygen, and then we are saying this one is giving us energy, plus carbon dioxide plus water. But under normal circumstance, I can come and remove this energy instead. And I say, what happens is that when respiration takes place, we are saying we produce the Gibbs free energy, which I already told you about. So what exactly happens is that when that Gibbs free energy is produced, we are saying that Gibbs free energy, which is produced in form of kilojoules, some of it is used to combine molecules, and these molecules which usually combine, which usually combine are ADP and PI. ADP and PI. Now, teacher, what are those? What are these molecules? Now, maybe also a bit, maybe before I can also go to all that, I can also say, remember I've told that the energy, this ATP stores energy, and I've told you that the energy is kept in these bonds, especially these bonds which are between phosphate. That means if I have ATP, here, if I have this ATP, and now it is there kept in my cell, but the time has come when the cell does not have enough energy and wants energy, and now it's time for ATP to provide that energy. What happens is this ATP will have to break down. Now, when this ATP breaks down, in the process of breaking down, remember, I've told you this is adenosine triphosphate, and I've told you that energy is kept in the bonds which combine, which unite the bonds between the phosphates. So what happens is that in the process of breaking down, now one of the phosphate will disappear. One of this bond here will break, and when this bond breaks, it means the phosphate will go away. And now when this phosphate goes away, what will happen? Now it means you're going to remain with this thing, but this thing now is lacking one phosphate. So because it's lacking one phosphate, now this thing that you'll be having will not be called ATP, but will be called ADP. Now, what is this D? Remember, T was representing triphosphate. But what have I said? I've now said that now one phosphate group has been broken down because we want to release the energy. Because I've said within this bond there was energy we want to release, so it can be used by the cell. So one bond breaks off. When one bond breaks to release energy, now what you remain with is ADP. This D means die. So it means this is now adenosine diphosphate. This was adenosine triphosphate. Now this one is adenosine diphosphate, because we have said one phosphate has been broken off. And of course, when it breaks off, it is there now. That phosphate, we are calling it inorganic phosphate. This PI means inorganic phosphate. I is inorganic, P is phosphate. So we are saying now the ADP has been broken down into ADP and PI, but we are saying as this bond is being broken down, what happens is there is energy. We produce energy. There's energy which is released here. Energy is released, and that energy can then be used. That energy can be used to do some functions. For example, if you try to read this, energy can be around about 30. Some books say 30, some others say, but it's around 30.4 kilojoules which are released. You get? So that energy now can also go and it becomes used by the cell to do some functions, which I already told you about in the previous videos. Likewise, assume that this person does not have energy at all. Maybe he has stopped eating, and now it was time for ATP now to be broken down. ATP has broken down from ADP and PI. He has produced energy, but the energy he has produced is still not yet enough. The body still needs more energy, and we don't have any other source apart from the only source we had was ATP. That's what the only source we had for energy. But now after being the only source, it has come. The ATP has been broken down from ADP and PI, and energy has come. But we are still saying the cell still needs more energy. What happens? Does the cell stop there and die? No. We are saying if they still need more energy, we are saying even this ADP you see here, in case energy is still needed, this ADP. Now this ADP, this means the ADP now will not be having this. One phosphate has gone away. Now, if we still need more energy, in case there is need for more energy, we still have another bond here. Which is keeping our energy. So in case the time reaches and the energy which has come from ATP is not enough, and the cell still requires more energy, what will happen is that this ADP, because there is still another bond which is still having energy kept in it. Now this bond will also be broken down. And once it is broken down, it means the energy which was in it will also be released. Whenever bonds break, energy is released. That one I already told you about in the previous video. So it means this bond will also be broken down. So when this bond breaks down, what happens? It means now our ADP will now break down. And then when it breaks down, what will it form? I think you think with me. We had ATP triphosphate. It broke after breaking down. It formed ADP. It moved from adenosine tri to adenosine di. Now I'm asking, assume now the ADP is broken down. What shall we form? You guess. Guess with me. Yes, we are going to form what? Yes. Now if ADP breaks down, we are going to form. Okay, thank you. We are going to form. We shall be forming adenosine. Adenosine what? This was tri, this was di. So from tri you come to di, from di you come to what? If you are going downwards. What are you saying? Mono. Hey, if you have said mono, thank you very much. Yeah, so we are saying adenosine diphosphate is now going to break down to form adenosine monophosphate. That is AMP. Yeah, adenosine monophosphate. And then we shall, of course, now we have said 1 pi and inorganic phosphate, of course. So when you again break this one, when you remove this, this one has been removed, so you remain with this adenosine mono what? Adenosine monophosphate. And then of course the other one which has gone away is this one. This is the inorganic phosphate which is there. And of course now here we are saying we shall also have energy released. We shall also have more energy released. More energy would have been released. Now beyond this, this one, now the moment this one breaks down, then here you will be splitting everything. You will be splitting everything. Now it means at that point, this ATP can no longer be giving, it can no longer be able to give us any more energy. So this is the minimum we can go. So beyond here, we don't have anything beyond this. If we go beyond this, it means you're now breaking the whole thing, the whole structure down. So that's how ATP does the work. That's how ATP helps the body to store energy, and that energy then becomes used later when there is need, or when the other sources of energy have been exhausted. Now this ATP, that's how it is utilized by it being broken, by it breaking down. And as it breaks down, we are saying energy is released, which the energy then can later be utilized to perform different functions. Hope you have learned something. Yeah, so this is it. Now as you go ahead, now it means maybe before I finish, that means as you see ADP, when it splits, it forms AMP and PI. That means if I want ADP, these two will combine and form this. Likewise, ATP is made up of ADP and PI. And you're saying once ATP breaks down to form this, that means this thing can also be what? These two things can again combine and they form what? ATP. In fact, the equation I wanted to draw at first, what I wanted to draw here to put here at first was that from what we know, from what we have, the basic respiration we have studied so far, we were having that glucose combined with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. But we are saying when this equation occurs, when this reaction occurs, what happens is what? What happens is what I already told you in one of the previous videos, that once this one occurs, which produce what we call gives energy or gives free energy. That energy, those kilojoules we have, some of those kilojoules are utilized, they are absorbed, or they are used by the cell to combine molecules together. And when those molecules come together, they form a chemical molecule known as ATP. And that chemical molecule is what keeps the energy, is what reserves the energy for future use. So we are saying, once this equation, for example, once this reaction has occurred, we are supposed to say here, I'm supposed to have plus energy. But instead of putting here plus energy, what I'm going to put here is that this energy we produce, these kilojoules we produce, some of them are converted into heat, as I already told you. But some of those kilojoules, and the biggest percentage, what happens to it is that some of those kilojoules are utilized by what? By ADP. This ADP are utilized by ADP, and that ADP now utilizes that energy to combine with what? To combine with PI. Now we are on this. So the energy which has been produced, that those kilojoules that are produced are going to be utilized by this ADP molecule which is present in the site of which is present in the cell. This molecule is already there in the cell. So it is good that ATP, the energy is going to be utilized by this molecule which is known as ADP, and then to utilize that energy to combine with PI to form ATP. I hope you don't get confused. I am saying glucose is reacting with oxygen to form energy, like I already told you previously. But we are saying what exactly happens when that energy is given out, that gives free energy, when it is given out, some of it is converted into heat. That one we are not going to go into that. But another one is turned into ATP. Now the question is, how is the other energy turned into ATP? That's what I'm trying to explain here. The other energy is turned into ATP in this format. What's that format? That other energy is utilized by these molecules. What are those molecules? By the ADP. This ADP is present there within a what? Within a cell. Is utilized by this ADP and PI, and these two combined. Remember, I talked about something to do with the what? With the anabolic reaction. So this one is an anabolic. This is anabolic reaction. So this anabolic reaction, for it utilizes the energy which has been given out. It utilizes the energy that has been given out to combine these smaller molecules, these simple molecules, into a big molecule which is known as ATP. So the energy, the other free Gibbs energy, apart from heat, the remaining Gibbs free energy is utilized by the ADP and PI to come together. And when they come together, they form bonds within themselves. When they form bonds, those bonds are strong energy bonds. And those bonds, when they form bonds together, they form what we call ATP. So this ATP you see here, it would have been formed that within its bonds that make it up, it will be having energy reserved for future use. As I already explained here, that now in the future when energy is not there and we need it, now the ATP now breaks down. Now it becomes time for ATP to break down, to give back the components which were making it up, and then energy becomes released. In case we don't have still more energy, we are saying again this ADP again breaks down from MP, again release more energy like that, and that's what we are deposit at that. Am I understood? I hope you have understood. If you have not understood, please you can feel free to replay this video and you go slowly by slowly as you watch this thing. Are we together? Okay, let's meet in the next video.